Why can't we find the proper balance between the right-wing Tucker Carlsons and the lefty Don Lemons of the world? Is it possible that any major network would promote a person who is as conservative as they are liberal and just as rational and sensible? And why do millions of people keep falling for the malignant narcissism of the alternative media personalities like Steven Crowder, whose show is supposedly about Christian conservatism, until the truth rears its ugly head? And not just the predictably ugly truth about the falsehoods of religions, but the extreme personalities that promote it. Because recently home video footage surfaced of him threatening physical violence on his 8-month pregnant wife over petty domestic matters, like what are the proper male and female roles between husbands and wives. And yet it seems like in order to reach the pinnacles of success that the Tucker Carlsons and the Don Lemons and the Steven Crowders, that level of success that these people reach in any industry, and especially one like media and entertainment, apparently it requires a certain personality type. Somebody who obviously has a thick skin for all the negative attention and scrutiny that comes with being in such a position. And yet, anyone who has that thick skin is most likely going to have the nature to return those insults and nastiness back onto others and society at large. And when you consider the amount of time it takes to build such a career, it's no wonder there are so many divorces and personal issues that surface about these people. Because it just takes a super driven, almost hyper-manic personality type to not only want that success, but to actually put in the time and the sacrifices to get there. And I'm sure there's also a certain level of psychopathy that comes with it. It's people who probably don't lose sleep over whoever they insult or hurt at a neurological level because they don't seem to process empathy. And to what extent psychologically they themselves were hurt when they were younger and then became driven to get even with their bullies by becoming these massive successes and in a sense rubbing it back in the face of their childhood tormentors, that probably plays into it as well. But how does that play out for the rest of us in society? When we end up getting these extreme people on our media feeds, whether they're on TV or the internet, and they're blathering and blasting whatever word salads it takes to keep people's attention, which then keeps the ratings up, which brings in the advertising dollars, and it makes them extremely wealthy. And yet that wealth is never enough, and a vicious cycle plays out for everybody involved. And I think this is a large part of the reason why so many of our problems in society don't get solved, because too many people are being misinformed and even disinformed by these extreme personality types. And it's also why so many viewers are made to feel like they need to pick a side, namely a political party that functions like a warring tribe that ultimately blinds most people to the fact that we have so much more in common than not. But does it have to be this way? Can't there be a prominent talking head who is committed to the truth and will therefore most likely be fiscally conservative and socially liberal? For example, a person who understands the need for abortion to be legal just the same as the need for the death penalty to be legal in order to deal with hardened criminals that have multiple murder charges who you're never going to rehabilitate and much less reason with, and they probably should have been aborted in the first place. And can't we find someone also who knows that all religions are false, including the secular ones like the Marxist wokeness that is infecting young people's minds like a mental virus? Somebody who understands the inescapable realities of economics, beginning with everything has a cost and therefore nothing will ever be free, especially when it comes to healthcare. Yet at the same time, a person who also understands that not everyone is created equally, particularly when it comes to IQ levels and raw ambition, not to mention random luck in life. And that if we want to have a more stable society, it benefits us to have rock bottom safety nets that keep working class people from going bankrupt if they're ever struck with inevitable, often faultless health issues like cancer. But most importantly, can we find a talking head that won't become beholden to audience capture and much less political party influence? Someone who won't become a shill for extremely right-wing politicians like Donald Trump, who is more driven by his petty, vapid narcissism than he is about solving problems for us as a nation. can we find somebody who definitely won't be beholden to corporate interests as well, that end up giving capitalism a bad name and invite the economically naive and predictably ruinous policies by politicians from the polar opposite left, like Bernie Sanders and much less AOC, who I'm amazed continues getting voted into office despite all the incredibly naive, to say the least, things that she says. The sad thing is, I doubt any major media company like Fox or CNN or MSNBC that require millions, if not billions of dollars in revenue just to stay afloat, if any of those companies are going to be more committed to what is true than to what pays their bills. Particularly the $20 million and up salaries of some of these glorified corporate lackey talking heads that have managed to masquerade as bona fide journalists, all the while deliberately helping to misinform people by stretching the truth about events like January 6th or the hundreds of riots throughout 2020 over the demonstrably false narrative about the death of George Floyd, representing a systematic killing of Black Americans by a white supremacist police force, even when some of those police are Black Americans trying to do right by their own communities. It's crazy the way most people's brains process reality, and how sometimes the truth is just something most of us don't want to face, even when it's staring us in the eyes. And it's a real shame how many people feel the need to trust other human beings to help them swallow information they almost instinctively know may not be true. But it's a lot more comfortable to digest lies that are convenient to our comfort zones than the truth that may push us to have to do uncomfortable things, namely thinking and taking responsibility for ourselves. And that's why there's always going to be the Tucker Carlsons and the Don Lemons to fill that function. And it's not for nothing why there will be one that will lean more towards the right and one that leans more towards the left. Because we need both, the right and the left. But some people are just more hardwired to lean in one direction than the other. And there will always be opportunistic CEOs and shareholders that just don't care about helping people find the necessary common ground because there's more money to be made from spreading problems than from solving them. And apparently no one has figured out how to make money from a truly level playing field that everyone can benefit from, because that would apparently undercut the undeservedly high profit margins that these opportunists have been benefiting from. The one positive thing about both Tucker Carlson and Don Lemon losing their jobs is that it goes to show none of these grossly overpaid talking heads have the power over society that they have been misled to think that they do. They are clearly replaceable. It's just a shame that they'll most likely be replaced with another opportunist more than willing to carry water for their bosses, who care more about remaining ludicrously wealthy than they are with informing viewers with what they claim to want to know but can't seem to handle, which is the truth. If I got anything wrong in this video, please let me know in the comments below. But if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell for upcoming videos, and check out the links below for my original art and merchandise. And thanks for watching.